fateful text message. That's right, I said text message the families of Flight 370 received before the Prime Minister's announcement. Let me quote this. Malaysia Airlines deeply regrets that we have to assume beyond any reasonable doubt that MH370 has been lost and that none of those on board survived. As you will hear in the next hour from Malaysia's Prime Minister, we must now accept all evidence suggests the plane went down in the southern Indian Ocean. So joining me to talk about this, psychologist Erik Fisher. So welcome back. And I tell you, and let me just say this, Malaysia Airlines says, yes, they tried to, talk to people in person, pick up the phone and deliver such sensitive news that way. But talking to a reporter in Beijing, many of them learned on a text.
Right.
How do you process that? That is brutal.
I think we have an issue here of speed of information, speed of the media, speed to want to get some information that they didn't fully think through the impact of families who have been waiting for 14 days, maybe thinking that, well, if we get them this information quickly, then we can move on with the news, putting the news out there. So the issue you have to look at is weighing those things, but not necessarily considering the emotional impact of these issues, because processing a text that you've been confirmed that your loved one is lost is painful.
And then here you have these families. I keep going back to this debris. I'm trying to imagine, you're told by this Prime Minister that the flight ended, right? Mm-hmm. And you're still, I imagine, left wondering, well, are you sure? How do we know
right.
You're sure? There are no pieces of the plane.
Right.
We know that they have actually offered, if and when these are pieces of the plane, that they will, Malaysia Airlines, fly the families to Australia to see them. Mm-hmm. Do you think that would be advisable for these families to do?
As humans, we often need that closure. We need something physical to touch or to see. They won't have a body to bury, which is very difficult in some cultures because they need that body to perform some of the rituals. So we have to consider that fact, and this is something potentially that they feel they need to offer for people to move on. Whether or not people want to do that will depend on the individual.
What if they don't get that? What if they get nothing?
Unfortunately, life doesn't offer us sometimes those neat packages to give us a closure to a life. And we have to understand the difficulties that we all may face in the loss of loved ones that we may have. But that's how we choose to move through these situations in life. It really depends on us, our support systems, the things that we choose to do to work through our emotions. But my concern for a lot of these families is that there may be a lot of complicated bereavement cycles because they're not able to have some of the ritualistic ceremonies that give them closure in their culture.
Complicated indeed. Let me just read this tweet. This is from the partner of Philip Wood. He was one of the Americans on board this plane. And so she tweeted, "Hurts hurting. Lift all loved ones of MH370 with your thoughts and prayers. Thank you for your support and for being our inspiration." I know people talk about closure. I kind of don't believe in it. I just think you just somehow find a way to not move on, but move forward. Mm-hmm. How do these families do that?
Well, I saw an interview with somebody who had a fiance on flight TW800, and seeing them tell their story, you could tell they still hadn't fully moved on. Just talking about what people may have gone through and what they went through, you could tell brought up those emotions.
Yeah.
So we have to know that we will have cycles of emotion in our grieving process, as well as even for some people it might feel post-traumatic in a way. So we have to see that this will be a process we'll process and work through for years to come. Anniversaries, wedding dates, Christmas holidays and things like that, as well as anniversaries of the loss. Yeah. And other losses that happen to people can be triggers for many of us.
Erik Fisher, thank you so much. Just thinking about them, thinking about those moms and dads, sons, daughters, aunts, uncles. Thank you. Coming up.